All right, guys, let's talk about forEach. Or before even talking about forEach, so I'm going to present you a very simplistic problem, and I'm going to show you different ways of dealing with the same problem. Yeah. So imagine that I got a function called transform. The function has a list of fruits, as usual. Fruits, apple, orange, and banana. So the idea of the function is to transform that list of fruits into the same list, but with all the individual elements converted to capital letters. So how can we do that? Let's call the function. So let me show you, first of all, the classic, the historical way, let's say, to solve the problem. So historically speaking, I would create an array like, I don't know, capital fruits, if that makes any sense. Yeah, I will create an array, and then I will do a for loop. So the way the for loop works is, first of all, we specify the condition. So for instance, I want to create a new variable called I, and then by default, I will be 0. So while I is less than fruits of length, then I will increment the value of I. That's a classic for loop, guys. And that for loop works with some subtle variations on pretty much every single programming language in the world. Yeah. So there's a for loop. You set the condition I equals 0. So while I is less than the size of the array, you increment the variable. So can anyone tell me how can I then add each individual fruit to the list of capital fruits? Like that? Like that? Oh, sorry, not import script. Something like that? Parentheses and then square bracket? Okay, it's not too bad, not too bad. Can anyone complete Max's suggestion? That's correct, Lauren. That's correct. See, so capital fruits.push. So we're adding elements to the array. So what do we add? What do we add? Well, we had the first fruit, we had the second fruit, we had the third fruit. But let me ask you something. Will that convert to capital letters or not? So the length? What do you mean? I want to transform that into apple, banana, all written in capitals. To uppercase. That's correct. Where? Here? Like that? That's interesting. That's interesting. That's correct. Interesting in my dictionary used to mean that's wrong. However, it deserves some sort of discussion. Yeah, it's wrong, but not stupid, right? That's the. So, can anyone see why that is not correct? That's correct, Elena. That's correct, Elena. That's correct, Elena. So what we're gonna do is take the fruit on index 0, 1, 2, 3, transform it to capitals, and then the result of that process, save the result into a new array of fruits called capital fruits. So what happens if I do a console.log of the invocation to the transform method? Will that work or not? Why not, Lauren? That's correct. There is no return statement. Guys, what happened? What happened when there is no return statement at all in a function? You don't return anything. What that means, technically speaking? But empty, yeah, but technically speaking, how do you refer in JavaScript to something empty, something that doesn't exist? What's the right word to describe that scenario? Undefined. Thank you, Max. Undefined. That's correct. So that's gonna return undefined. I mean, if we run it, let's run it. You see, it returns undefined. So as I think Lauren suggested, we need to write the return statement. But the question is where? Here? Where? After the for loop, correct? Return what? Like that? Semicolon. Thank you, Vicky. That's correct. All right, so that should work. Here you go. You see, I got my sexy list of fruits. And it works. That runs. Sorry, yeah, there was a question somewhere. Aha, 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 aha. So what Vicky is suggesting is to do that. What do you think, guys? Will that work? That's brilliant, Lauren. Lauren is absolutely right. You cannot in JavaScript, maybe in other languages you can do this sort of magic, but in JavaScript, if you got apple, orange, obviously, if I manage to type the right characters, it will have right orange and then banana, dot to uppercase. That's wrong. That's not gonna work. Yeah? I mean, it would be great, right? That would simplify things a lot, but unfortunately, that's not the way JavaScript works. So with JavaScript, we need to transform its character, not its character, each element of the array, it's a string, as Lawrence suggested individually, and then we return the whole thing, the whole array of fruits. So once again, that should work. Any other questions? No? Yeah. Um, that's a really good question, Max. I'll tell you something. I'm not gonna tell why that won't work. But I'm gonna of course you're gonna know, because you're gonna practice. Well, you're gonna practice. So I yeah, someone was saying something. No, no. Wait. JavaScript is not that stupid. JavaScript knows the execution order perfectly. So first of all, it will push the element. That's the first thing, and then it will transform it to uppercase. I believe, I'm 90% sure that should throw an exception, but I'm not gonna tell you why. I want you to practice with this algorithm, and I'll tell you something. There are 3 points on the board challenge for whoever gives a decent answer first. Yeah, I've shared that on Slack with you. By the way, I will share the numbers about last week's board challenge performance. I will share that in a minute. I can anticipate that a woman took the victory again. All right, so that's the first thing. So that's not gonna work. I'm not gonna tell you why, because that could be part of a job interview. So I want you to practice with this type of issues. Let's talk a bit about breakpoints. So for instance, look guys, if I had a breakpoint on line number 4, 5, and 10, can anyone tell me what's gonna be the execution order? Who wants the first points of the week? Max, 10. Hmm? Hmm? Okay. Anyone else? Maxim? Yeah. And then what? Number 4 3 times. All right. 4 4 4. And then what? How many times? 9? Just one. Okay, cool. Thank you, Maxim. Vicky? You ever agree with Max? All right. Fair enough. Yeah. Elena? Interesting. All right. Thank you, Elena. Who else? Lauren? Interesting. Cool. Who else? Alaya? Nice. Cool. Thank you, Alaya. Anyone else around? You cannot see the screen. What the hell? Why you cannot see the screen? That was very impressive. You were able to follow this example without looking at the screen, to keep in your mind every single thing I'm saying. I really try to refresh the page because, guys, well, wait a minute. Maybe that's my fault. Guys, can you see all your names on my screen? Okay, then Aaron, there is something wrong on your end. So try to reconnect or something. All right, cool. Anyone else? I think we got, not sure if we got Rafa, Lorraine. Rafa is connected, not sure if he's busy doing something else. Lorraine, any thoughts? Okay, cool. Fair enough. No, you can't. No, you can't, Elena. No. By the way, wait a minute. No, you can't. You can't because you already participated. Remember, guys, you get a single opportunity. Think twice before you give an answer. All right. Cool. That's interesting. And in this occasion, the first point of the week go to Max, because he was the first one giving the right answer. So the thing is, why everyone else, literally everyone else, is wrong? Main problem is on line number 4. On line number 4, we declare the loop. In other words, that line will be set up. That's confusing, guys. I have to admit, this example is confusing. Let's run it. First of all, let's run it. Let's run it in debug mode. So if you give me a second, I will enable the debugger, and hopefully, here you go. We start on line number 10. We'll agree on that. 4, you see, 5, and then 5 again, and that's it. That's confusing, guys. I need to alert you. That's confusing. You may be thinking, wait a minute. So if it's stopping on line number 4 just once, how the hell is it increasing the counter every time? Let me try to find a decent way to explain that. So when we are at a breakpoint, yeah, we're talking about how many times we stop before that line has been evaluated at all. So how many times we declare the for loop? Just once. But then, interestingly enough, even though the line has been declared just once, in reality, that bit of code, so what I'm highlighting at the moment, this is executed multiple times. That's confusing. Yeah. But again, that's not a bad thing. But then look, as you may have noticed, in VS Code, sometimes you got the chance to add breakpoints like in the middle of the line in weird places. Yeah, I cannot do that. Not sure if maybe by breaking that into multiple lines. I don't think so. I don't think that's possible. So yeah, I have to admit that example is confusing. However, to me, the most important thing is to be aware of that the declaration of the for loop runs only once. And then And then, regardless of whether line number 4 runs one or multiple times, maxim, it is important to note that the next line, let me bring it back to how it was before. So actually, let me see what happens if I click. Sorry, let me try again. What happens if I click on this weird red circle I got in the middle of my screen? Can I? No? All right, that's nothing. So let me just finish that. So regardless of whether you think that line number 4 it runs 1, 2, or 3 times, the important thing to note is that obviously line number 5 will run as many times as items our list of fruits have. We got 3 pieces of fruit. That line number 5 will run 3 times. Yeah, that's the important thing. So that's a for loop. Yeah? That's the classic historical way of solving the problem. However, guys, will it work if, for instance, I change the lower symbol with, for instance, lower or equal? Can anyone tell me the outcome of this algorithm? Elena, I think you wanted to say something. Okay. And then what? And what happened in that case? Will that return undefined at some point in capitals? With a happy face maybe at the end? What happened? Actually, Elena is right. Elena, even though she's been unable to complete the answer, the idea she's exposing makes a lot of sense to me. She says, hey, wait a minute. Eventually, because we change lower with lower equal, I, on the last iteration, what will be the last value of I here, guys? On line number 5. The last value will be 3. That's correct. That's correct. It will be 3. So what do we have on fruits of index 3? Nothing. Nothing means undefined. Apple, index 1. Orange, index 2. Banana, no, sorry. Apple, index 0. Orange, index 1. Banana, index 2. What we have an index 3? Literally nothing. So fruits of index 3 will return undefined. What happened when we try to do undefined dot something? That's correct. That will throw an error. So if you run the snippet, you see, it vomits an error. Cannot read property to uppercase of undefined. So that's why, I broke it. I broke it by changing the lower symbol with the lower equal. In other words, that way of manually iterating over all the elements of the array is error prone. What happens if I initialize I instead of 0 to 1? Can anyone tell me what will this algorithm return? So that will return apple in lowercase and then orange and banana. Sorry, no. Let me simplify. Let me remove the equals at the end. Yes, yeah. What do you think, guys? Right or wrong? I don't know. You have to tell me. So Elena say yes. It will be yes. Orange and banana. Why, Elena? That's correct. We're ignoring it. Yeah, we're ignoring it. So that will return yes, orange and banana. And what if I put let I equals 100? What will that return? Undefined. All right. Wait. That's interesting. So Aaron said undefined. Who else? Max agrees on that. Maxim, not Max. All right, sorry. Maxim said undefined. Cool. Who else? Oh, interesting. Why an empty array, Lauren? That's correct. Lauren is right, guys. So we initialize capital fruits as an empty array. So how many times? All right, let's add some extra breakpoints. So can anyone tell me what's going to be the execution order? Anyone apart from Lauren? What's going to be the execution order this time? Four, five, seven. All right. Thank you, Max. Who else? All right. Interesting. Who else? Guys, that's yes. Elena. Wait, guys. One by one. Elena was trying to say something. So Elena, 4-7. All right. Cool. Elena is right. Why Elena is right? We stop on line number 4 once, as we've done before. However, we initialize I to a very high number, which is a 100. Is 100 less than 3? No. So the condition is not met on the first iteration. So it's never ever gonna stop on line number 5. So if we run it, you'll see it will jump from line number 4. Here you go, line number 4 to line number 7. You see? And it will return an empty array of 0 elements as Lauren originally suggested. Any questions? No? All right, so that's the classic way of looping over an array of items. However, once again, that's error prone. It's very easy to fail, particularly here. If the only thing you want to do is to loop over an array of items, that's probably not ideal. That's why, thankfully now, we got something called forEach. I'm going to rewrite, guys, the same example, writing forEach. With forEach, sorry guys, there is some noise. I don't know where it's that coming, but there was some weird noise. Maybe the microwave is telling you something. So how do we write the same algorithm with forEach? Look, we will type fruits dot forEach fruit, and now here we can do whatever we want. For instance, capital fruits dot push fruits. These 3 lines of code, 7, 8, and 9, are equivalent to the lines above, the commented ones, 4, 5, and 6. But I hope you appreciate that we are simplifying the algorithm a bit because of a couple of reasons. First of all, we don't have to manually decide the boundaries of our loop. So forEach will naturally go from the beginning to the end automatically. And then, because we don't have to deal with the I, we don't have to deal with the index. So we'll get access to each fruit. First of all, the apple, then the orange, and then the banana. And that's it. Yeah? So that's a more fashion way of solving the very same problem. What if we add some breakpoints? Can anyone tell me what the execution order will be? Elena, 7, 8, 10. Thank you, Elena. Who else? So Lauren, 7, 8, 8, 10. Like that. 2 times. 3 8s, yeah. Who else? All right. Cool. Lorraine, I want to hear Lorraine and Elijah. What do you think? Oh, that's not gonna work in a job interview, Lorraine. All right, cool. All right, cool. Yeah. So, Elena, do you still think you're right or not anymore? Cool. Absolutely, guys. Absolutely. We're gonna stop on the for each loop 3 times. Yeah, as many times as elements our array has. So if we run it, you'll see we'll stop on line number 7 first. Here you go, and then we'll go to line number 8. What's the value of the first fruit, guys? Can anyone tell me? That's correct. You see, if I hover the variable, it returns apple. Second iteration, orange, and then third iteration, banana. So finally, we'll leave the loop and we will return the list of capital fruits. Oh, wait a minute. Can anyone tell me why the list of capital fruits is not a list of capital fruits? Correct. I forgot to transform to uppercase, but that's the same thing, yeah? So rather than pushing the fruit, I push the fruit transform to capitals. And if you run it again, so hopefully this time we'll get the perfect answer, as you can see at the bottom of my screen. So that's for each. For each is a more fashion way of iterating over an array of elements from the beginning to the end. So, do you have any questions? Hmm. That's interesting. That's correct. We have curly braces, but we don't have return statement. That's a really good point, Elena. The point about for each is it doesn't return anything. So you know when you got find, you remember find, guys? Fruit.find fruit, and then we did return fruit equal 3 equals if possible apple. Yeah, return that. You remember that? So here we needed a return statement because find will return. Find and filter, they will both return a new array or a new element, whatever. They will return some data. For each, however, doesn't return anything. One of the classic mistakes of junior developers is doing something like that. Guys, if I read that line of code, I will give up. I'm not gonna read anything else because that line is completely bullshit. That doesn't make any sense. For each doesn't return anything. You cannot assign the result of whatever is going on here. You cannot do return fruit dot to uppercase. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So for each is only useful to loop over an array of elements, and then for each element on that list, you'll do whatever you need to do. Yeah, that's completely up to you. That's why, can I put a return statement? Well, if I want, that's fine. Yeah, you can do that. That's not gonna hurt. However, it's completely pointless, smelly, because that return statement is not adding any value, guys. If a piece of code is not improving your algorithm, delete it. Delete it. Don't forget something. The best code you can have is the one that you delete, because that piece of code will never fail again. And that's a good example. That's a good question. That's a really good question, Elena. Based on what I've said, if I remove the semicolon, yes, I can. Because I don't care about what this algorithm returns. To me, it feels a bit weird, personally. Why? Because if you don't have the curly braces, if you got something like parentheses, or even if you got the shortest version, which is putting everything in one line, it looks like the way we are used to write JavaScript, that you care about what that part of the right-hand side returns. But that's not true. Yeah? However, regardless of whether this is more or less readable, technically speaking, you are right, Elena. We can replace the curly braces with parentheses or with nothing, as you can see on my screen. Any questions? Absolutely. That's it. Nothing else, nothing more. Yep. Yeah, that's a good question. Not often, to be honest, because the thing is, if I want to search, I will use find or filter. If I want to, so it is true that forEach is not very popular these days. Yeah, and the reason why it's not very popular is because now, now there are more advanced ways of doing whatever you need with arrays. If you want to find, you have find and filter. If you want to transform, you have map that I'm going to explain in a minute. So forEach feels a bit legacy. Yeah, it's true. However, I'm not going to tell you the advantages of using forEach. However, I want to tell you the advantages of using forEach against the for loop, the classic, the historical way of looping. Yeah. So just comparing these two, forEach is better. Imagine that, for instance, that could be another good job interview question. You have to write an algorithm to determine whether a list of fruits contains an apple, and you are not allowed to use find because of whatever reason. Yeah? You cannot use find. So how will you solve the problem? Well, I will create a variable called apple, and then I don't know. I will say if fruit equal apple, or matching, I don't know, matching fruit. So if the fruit is apple, matching fruit equals fruit. Yeah, something like that. So eventually, I will return the matching fruit. So I'm writing an equivalent version to find. Yeah. So if I run this algorithm, can anyone tell me what should this function return? Apple. That's correct. That's correct. And what if I don't have any apple? What should this function return? That's correct. Undefined, because we create a variable, but that condition will never satisfy. So eventually matching fruit remains undefined. So I'm creating an alternative to find, yeah. But obviously, unless because of whatever strange obscure condition I'm not allowed to use find, I will simply return fruits.find fruit, and then fruit equal apple. Yeah. So the forEach loop can be replaced with find. The beautifulness about forEach is that it is some sort of low level. So if because of whatever reason you need a lot of control, I think it works quite well. Yeah. Any questions? No? All right, so we got the forEach loop, but what about map? So I told you that forEach is probably not as popular as it used to be, because now JavaScript has a bunch of methods that run specific operations really well. So even in this particular use case scenario, if my intention is to iterate over an array of items and transform them one by one, I can easily replace all of that with something even simpler. Look, guys, return fruits.map fruit. The structure of the exercise is very similar. So let me keep it as it was with the forEach fruit, curly braces, and then return fruit.to uppercase. Look, these 3 lines of code, 11, 12, and 13, are equivalent. Probably can get rid of the all for loop. Let me move it to the top. These 3 lines of code are equivalent to these 5 lines of code, 7 to 11. Yeah, they do literally the same. The way this works is with map, we will iterate over each fruit and we will transform each individual element. The first fruit will be the apple. So we are returning. You see here the return statement is important. We are returning a new array with the same size. So if the input list of fruits had 3 items, the output will still have 3 items. But for each item, instead of returning an apple, for instance, we're returning an apple in capital letters. With the second item, we receive an orange, and we replace it with an orange in capital letters. And with the third item, we receive a banana in lowercase, and we return a banana in capital letters. Let's see if it works. Let's present some breakpoints, and then let's have a discussion about this. You see? So yeah, it actually runs the same algorithm. So from a user point of view, it's running the same code logic. So I got 3 breakpoints. Can anyone tell me what the execution order is going to be? Vicky? Thank you, Vicky. Who else? All right. Anyone disagree with Vicky? So you don't disagree with Vicky? Cool, thank you, Laia. Yes, so you are right, guys. You are right. You see, we go to 13 once. Sorry, first of all, obviously, we call the function, because if we don't call the function, the code will never run, right? So once we decided to call the function, we set up the map, and then we iterate over each element of the array. And now, some questions. What happens if I return the return statement on line number 13? Can anyone tell me what will this algorithm return? What that means? Will the algorithm, guys, return pineapple? Three strings. What type of data is that, Elena? Guys, that's one of the reasons why indentation is so vital. So, look, ignore the curly brace, guys. So this morning, Aaron has sent me a pull request, and it looked really good. However, I rejected it originally because indentation was wrong. And if indentation is wrong, you can miss potential problems. Look, my function, let's pay attention to this ruler. You see where my cursor is, right? So in this line, do we have any return statement? No. So what happened in JavaScript when a function doesn't have any return statement? Undefined. That's correct, guys. So that function will clearly return undefined, as you can see, because we missed the return statement. And what happened? What happened if instead of returning fruit.toUppercase, we return hello? What will this function return? Hello. So Vicky said hello. Like what? Like that? String? Aaron? Empty array, interesting. Lorraine? All right, who else? All right, so yes, you're right. You're right, Elena. So why Elena is right? Because remember that maps transforms an array, fruits in this case, into another array. So hello I don't know what it returns, but for sure it's not going to be a string. It needs to be another array. Of how many elements? 3 elements. Yeah, that's why it cannot be an empty array neither. So what are each individual element of this array? So on the first of all, we get an apple, but we ignore it. Yeah, we don't care about what do we have on the first element. We return hello. We iterate again. We receive an orange. Then we don't care about what the orange is. So we return hello again. And finally, we have the banana. So we return the banana again. So in other words, sorry, we ignore the banana again. So we return hello, hello, hello 3 times, as you'll see in a second. Here we go. You see? So whatever you put here, it will be returned, replacing the original element. What happened if I got fruit dot split dot reverse dot join. Can anyone tell me what will this algorithm return? Yeah, this thing, right? So that's correct, Lauren, that's correct. So that's gonna take the first element of the array, which is the apple, and it will transform it into what? Into something quite exotic, which is, give me the apple, split it, look at the empty string, so that will create, actually, if we add some break lines, we could follow the example, right? So first of all, fruit, remind that fruit, guys, is apple. After splitting it, I will return A, and then P, and then another P, and then L, as a string, of course, and then finally E, right? Because we reverse it, that will flip the elements of the array. So we'll have E, and then L, and then P, and then P again. What is it? P again, and finally A. Yeah. And because we join it, that will create a string with the reverse word, E, L, P, P, A, whatever. Yeah. So of course, and that will repeat the operation for each element on the array. So if we run it, actually, sorry guys, I forgot to join using the empty string. Yeah. So if I do it correctly, as you can see, now this is flipping. This is switching the positions of each element on the array. Questions? Well, you should be able to predict that at some point. So for instance, if I had a breakpoint on line number 7, to me, that breakpoint, it's a bit weird, right? Because there is a comment. So there is nothing to evaluate here. So that's why some breakpoints don't, if I had a breakpoint, what happens if I had a breakpoint line number 20? There is nothing, right? So some breakpoints are a bit controversial. However, you can add breakpoints when you, for instance, when you declare a variable or before you return something. Yeah? Here, that's a bit controversial because in reality, what I'm highlighting, all these things belong to the same instruction. Yeah. So this is some sort of atomically evaluated by the debugger. So that's why playing with the debugger inside of this instruction could be a bit more complicated. Yeah. I'm gonna leave it in one line like that. Yeah. So this is not a rocket science, Maxim. Where do you put the breakpoints? To me, I used to put breakpoints where I find it is relevant. So imagine that the function is returning something weird. So I will add a breakpoint line number 14. So when I run it, then I will be able to evaluate what are the values of the fruit. You see, so fruit apple, and then when I move it to the next iteration, I can hover it, and then fruit orange, and so on. That's all right. What else, guys? Any questions? So map is one of the most important methods in JavaScript because with map we can easily transform an array into another array of the same size, of the same number of elements. That will be particularly interesting on Wednesday. So on Wednesday, I'm going to talk about map again because I would like to present a list of, I don't know, football players, whatever, and I would like to display them one by one in a React application. That's actually what some of you are already playing with as part of CodeFlix. When you display a list of TV shows from a JavaScript array, you have to use map to iterate through these elements. Yeah? So we're going to have a follow-up session on map because I think it's one of the most important methods when talking about JavaScript. And that's it from my side. So I'm going to share that snippet with you on Slack. Any final thoughts? No? Not symbols. Symbols is a very exotic thing that we added to the platform at the end just to cover some weird stuff. But about object.keys and object.values, yes, we are going to talk about that. Definitely. Cool. Yeah, cool. Thank you, Max. You got this snippet on the Slack. And remember, I've sent you at the beginning of this session another off-topic challenge about discovering why the first algorithm I've shared this afternoon is not gonna work. Remember, guys, that a potential employer may present you that sort of problems, like, hey, we have written this algorithm. Can you figure out why it doesn't work? So I think it's a very healthy exercise to practice with that. Yeah, and of course, if you play with it, if you find an answer, or if you are unable to explain why, you need any help, you know where I am, right? So thank you very much, guys, and we'll see you later. Bye bye. Bye bye.